Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Tropical update number 48 on Saturday morning for Category 1 Hurricane Ida. Invest 97L Tropical Depression 10 in an area of interest located off the coast of Africa. Again, we're going to begin with Ida. Ida is going to take up the majority of the video because it's the biggest concern. There's also a hurricane affecting Mexico on the Pacific side, also with decent impacts. But again, Ida is our main concern. We'll talk about the rest of the storms in the Atlantic here towards the end of the video. So let's get started with Ida. Hurricane warnings in effect from Intracoastal City, Louisiana to the mouth of the Pearl River, including Lake Pontchartrain, Lake Maurepas, and Metropolitan New Orleans. Tropical storm warning on either side of that from Cameron, Louisiana, all the way to the Alabama-Florida border. And of course, not where the hurricane warning is in effect for. Winds up to 85 miles an hour now, pressure down to 984. We finally seen ice starting to form on satellite here. The storm is, it basically was rapidly intensifying until it hit Cuba. And then Cuba didn't make it lose strength, but it made it stop gaining strength. And so it's going to begin to enter its period of rapid intensification that we've been talking about for, 3 or 4 days now. That's going to occur with this storm. And so we will likely see a category 3 or 4 by the end of the day out of Ida as it makes its way towards Louisiana. The next intermediate advisory at 2, next full advisory at 5. And for some reason I kept those times in Eastern, even though now advisories are being issued in Central, as that's where the storm will be making landfall in. So again, that's kind of how we're going in terms of watches and warnings, taking a look at most likely time of arrival. Again, Sunday morning, tomorrow morning, is when these tropical storm force winds will arrive on the coast. And then even further inland, about halfway into Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. Probably not Alabama, but Louisiana and Mississippi could see it as early as Sunday afternoon. A visual look at where our watches and warnings are in effect in terms of wind warnings. Again, we'll have flooding in storm surge as well. Speaking of flooding not good at all. We're looking at 8 to 16, isolated to 20 for southeastern Louisiana and southern Mississippi. Again, a little bit more rain going to fall over Cuba today. Jamaica is kind of out of the question now in terms of its totals. But now we're also looking into the rest of the United States, northern Louisiana, central Mississippi, and the Tennessee Valley, looking at 4 to 8 inches for their areas. Taking a look at storm surge, of course, a big concern. Storm surge warning in effect from Rockefeller Wildlife Refuge, which is around where Pecan Island is at, all the way over to the Mississippi-Alabama border, I believe, and then a storm surge watch from Mississippi-Alabama border to the Alabama-Florida border, where 2 to 4 feet of storm surge is expected. From Sabine Pass to Pecan Island, we're looking at 1 to 3 feet of storm surge. Again, no watches or warnings in effect for that 1 to 3 feet, but again, still a little bit of storm surge expected there. Of course, the heaviest storm surge, 10 to 15 from Morgan City to the mouth of the Mississippi, and 7 to 11 from the mouth of the Mississippi to Ocean Springs. Again, extreme storm surge is expected with this storm. And again, the difference between this and Katrina, though, is the path that this storm's going to take. Katrina kind of hit the mouth of the Mississippi and left New Orleans almost, it hit New Orleans dead on coming in from the south. This storm's going to be a few clicks the other direction to the west, which should mitigate a Katrina-like impact here. Again, like I said in the previous video, we aren't trying to compare it to Katrina, but that's kind of the degree of storm that we're dealing with today and over the next few days. And with it falling on the 16th anniversary, it's just kind of inevitable we make those comparisons. Again, taking a look at the landfall point, like I said, it's not a due south impact like Katrina was. That's the big thing that made Katrina so bad, was the angle of attack, if you will. This is coming in at a bit of an angle. It's also not going to directly hit New Orleans, albeit New Orleans is going to feel the full brunt of Ida. No doubt about that. Like I've been saying, evacuations are in store, and local officials have done that. Again, we can see the spaghetti model tracks. You can take a look at intensity forecast. Intensity, almost everybody agrees on a major hurricane by the time we get to landfall. National Hurricane Center, that's that top line there, bringing it to Category 4 strength, low end Cat 4. Although basically by the time we get to Cat 3, it doesn't matter what category it is. It's kind of just fun and games after that in terms of what we want to call it. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's going to be big is kind of the point. Ida's wind field has expanded since making landfall in Cuba, and it's expected to continue to do that as it gains strength as well. Again, that's why basically all of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama are under tropical storm warnings or a hurricane warning, is because of the big wind field associated with Ida. Taking a look at the GFS, again, coming in on an angled attack angle somewhere between New Orleans and Lake Charles. And again, that's the same thing on the European model on the right-hand side of the screen, although it's a bit more narrow on the European ensemble. But again, somewhere in between the two, probably about halfway in between. I don't know all my cities in Louisiana, so I can't really tell you the coastal city that's going to get hit. But that's kind of where that's at. Taking a look at the H-Wharf, the H-Wharf does a really good job in the beginning of the first 6 to 12 hours, keeping Ida at a constant strength after its landfall in Cuba. Then brings Ida into a Category 4, making landfall in Louisiana, and thus the National Hurricane Center forecast models this model fairly closely. Again, the good news with this model as opposed to some other things we were still kind of talking about yesterday, again, it has that angle of attack to Louisiana, and it doesn't directly hit New Orleans, albeit New Orleans, decent chance that they get hurricane force winds, huge storm surge, a crap ton of rain. Again, it's not like they're completely immune to this storm, but it's not the worst case scenario ever. It's not Katrina 2.0. It might be somewhat comparable, but again, it's not going to be a Katrina 2.0, but it is going to be a very significant, devastating, and life-threatening hurricane. So, we have that to deal with. Again, to save lives, subscribe, hit the like button, keep on watching, because the more people do that, the more the video gets recommended, the more people see it, etc., etc., the more people that can be saved. And again, there's the other ways to stay in contact. Let's talk about the other storms. Invest 97L, 60% chance of formation. That's kind of how it's going right now. Nothing too crazy. We still have that convection. We still have rotation, but it's nothing wild at the moment. So that's kind of where we're at on 97L. As we see, again, going to go just wide of the Azores, heading up towards Greenland later in its life after it loses any degree of tropicality that it has. A decent chance for this to become a tropical storm with its strength. Tropical Depression 10 formed this morning with winds of 35 miles an hour, has a chance to briefly become a tropical storm, according to the National Hurricane Center. Taking a look at the intensity guidance, again, nobody's too crazy about this storm, getting wild out there in the Atlantic as it moves due north, which is a sort of odd direction. But again, that's kind of where we're at the moment. Tropical storm not completely out of the question, but possible. So we'll just continue to look at this. And also this area of interest, as we see here, the European out to 5 days brings this storm, which hasn't even formed yet, to a very strong tropical cyclone located off the coast of Africa. Again, a 50% chance of formation within the next 5 days. This is something we'll keep an eye on. I don't believe it's going to be a threat to land, but the models get very spread out as we go further than the 5 days. Say 7 or 10 days, it's very spread out. There's another area moving off the coast of Africa we're going to have to keep our eye on as well, and also development in the Caribbean that we might want to keep an eye on heading into the next few days as well. So again, lots of things going on, the peak of hurricane season. As we've been saying, we'll continue to keep you guys updated on all 4 of these systems so long as they remain of threat. Of course, we'll have another update out this evening on the storms, particularly Ida, which will likely be intensifying rapidly. That's it for now. Chris Dixon of Weather, Catholic Media.